Please don't scroll. Basic barista signs in ASL. Let's go. Hot. 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 Cold. 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 Coffee. 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 Tea. 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 Your name. Your name. Your name. Small. 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 Or small. 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 Medium. 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 Large. 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 Or large. 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 Frap. 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 Which milk? Which milk? Which milk? Which milk? Wi-Fi. 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 Do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help?
Nothing could make me change my point of view. Oh girl.
Dr. Annie Pet Behaviorist here, and I get a lot of comments and messages from you guys about how to get the cats in your life not to act so much like that. So here are my top 10 tips. Tip number 1, ignore the cat. As I've mentioned in other videos, cats are mesopredators, so they can find attention from humans threatening. Most cats really appreciate a human that looks safe, so someone that isn't chasing them around, staring them down, or trying to pet them or pick them up. One of my friends said that growing up, her mom had a rule that there was an invisible spot in the house. So if the cat was in that cat bed, no one in the home was allowed to look at the cat, talk to the cat, or try to touch the cat. I love this so much. I highly encourage your household to try giving your cat an invisible spot. Tip number 2, if you do make eye contact, especially with an unfamiliar cat, try slow blinking at the cat to communicate you're not a threat. I have a lot more about this in this video. Tip number 3, help the cat learn about you, and cats learn a lot through smell. Jackson Galaxy famously offers his eyeglasses to cats to smell, which is great, but unless you're concerned about aggression, your finger will do too. In my experience, few curious cats can resist a pointed finger held out to your side, especially if you're sitting still and not making eye contact. Tip number 4, be the source of all good things. What those good things are will vary depending on the cat, but some common ones are food, special treats, brushing, and play. Over time, the cat will build an association between you and the stuff they really like, and eventually their brains will trick them into thinking they like you too. Tip number 5. I kind of mentioned this in tip number 4, but it is so important it bears repeating. Play with your cat. Even if you think you're playing with your cat enough, try playing with them even more and see what happens. Bonus points if you set up those play sessions with some predictability. For example, at the same times every day, or with a special word or sound that cues a play session is about to start. Speaking of predictability, tip number 6 is to schedule time to bond with your cat. For those cats that aren't super cuddly, this may look like sitting next to them and reading a book or speaking gently to them, or for some cats this may mean that they get to sit on your lap and get all the pets. The most important things about this time are that it should be between 5 and 15 minutes long, but the longer the better. You need to be solely focused on your cat, so no distractions like your phone or the TV, and it needs to happen at the same time every single day. I would love it if all of you watching this would commit to trying this with your cat for a week and reporting back. I think that you'll see a real change in your relationship. Tip number 7, learn how your cat likes to be petted. For most cats, they prefer touches on the cheeks, chin, and neck, and this is where most cats groom one another. Some cats like pets along their backs and the base of their tails, but this is a little riskier as cats can get quickly overstimulated from touches there. To learn more about your cat's preferences, I recommend letting them guide the interaction by presenting your hand and seeing which parts of their body they choose to rub up against it. Tip number 8. Even when you've figured out where and how your cat likes pets, it's important to check very frequently to make sure they're still enjoying it. Just a few pets can be the difference between a cat having a great time and the cat biting you. I don't recommend petting any longer than 3 to 5 seconds straight without a break to check that the cat is still having a good time. And how do you tell if the cat is enjoying it? Tip number 9, learn more about their body language. I have an entire playlist on this. I recommend you check it out. And finally, tip number 10, adjust your expectations. Not all cats will be cuddle bugs. The goal of these tips is to shift them closer towards that end of the spectrum, but it's also really important to understand and respect the kind of relationship that your cat wants and learn to appreciate it. Your cat will thank you for it. Let me know in the comments if you plan to try any of these tips, and like and follow for more pet behavior content.
Okay, if you have a pet of any kind, I need you to go to Chewy and type in b.chewy.com. And you're gonna go to the Chewy Claus and make them a holiday list. It'll just ask you a bunch of questions about their name, what kind of animal they are. There's a bunch of different options, if they were naughty or nice, and what they want. So obviously I did one for Chef Ronnie, and he obviously was very nice this year, the best little boy, and he just wants toys, but you can ask for food or anything. And one, it's so cute, but also they're gonna randomly choose people, or I don't know how they're choosing people, but they're gonna choose animals to send out their wish list to. Chewy Claus is gonna send out gifts. And even if you are not selected, they just donated a pound of food on Chef Ronnie's behalf. I'm not a member of Chewy or anything, so anyone can do it, and I highly recommend, because it was fun to just write to. And a pound of food was donated.
This is the thing about crows. They're responsible for over 100 power outages every year because they steal cables to build their nests. They understand the concept of the number 0, which is actually really complex. Not even all human languages and number systems include 0. They also have an awareness that goes way beyond sensory awareness. Now come here and listen to me, because this is crazy. They have subjective experiences, which is only known to happen with humans and some kinds of primates. They're aware of themselves and things and think about things, but we don't know if they're aware that they're aware. They pass down their grudges to their children. They can use tools and make their own tools. Like, they'll often drop nuts down onto the road so cars will run them over and open them for them. They also have funerals and mourn their dead. Some of them mate for life, but some of them will have like one family in one area and another family in another area. Like your dad.
I listened to this video today that was like urban legends that turned out to be true. And one had me so shook, I literally like opened up my mouth wide. I was like, oh my god. Clearly the urban legend was this house is so haunted it drives everyone crazy that went inside of it. But it was actually based off of this house where people started losing their goddamn minds in it and nobody could figure out why for a little while. Turns out they had a datura plant growing over their rain barrel catcher thing. Leaves from this datura plant would fall into their rainwater catcher. Means they were unknowingly microdosing datura every day and making them lose their minds, because datura is a super deadly, super potent deliriant. Tiny amount of datura can make you hallucinate and have a deliriant hallucination for weeks, months. It takes forever to get out of your system, and enough of it will actually kill you, and you will actually have a horrifying death because it gives you horrifying hallucinations. These people that just lived in this fucking house just thought, oh, it's just leaves, like whatever. It gets filtered out. Apparently it does not get filtered out. They had no idea how deadly that fucking plant was that was growing over their rain catcher. Shocked me so bad, because if that happened to me, I don't think I would survive. If I was unknowingly microdosing myself with datura daily and slowly losing my mind because of it, that is actually my worst nightmare.
Hey, are you gonna live in a dorm? Do you want help with that? I'm Jay, I'm a college junior, and I was a boarding student for most of high school, which makes this my 6th year living in a dorm. I'm pretty good at it. So here's tips and tricks for living at school 2023. Have 2 sets of sheets for your bed. That way you can take off a set that's dirty, and if you're not able to do laundry right away, you can still sleep in your bed. In terms of laundry, Tide Pods are a bad idea. Any school washer dryer is never particularly good, which can sometimes result in like the plastic part of the Tide Pod not dissolving all the way, and then it can fuck up your clothes. Liquid detergent is just as easy anyway. Last thing on sheets, if your skin suddenly gets really bad, wash or change your pillowcase. In terms of bathroom stuff, you're more than likely going to be using a communal bathroom with a lot of other people. You have to wear shower shoes. The floor in a college bathroom is not your friend. A lot of people asked last time, so to clarify, shower shoes are any shoes that can get wet and then dry again easily. Most people use slides or flip-flops. Also for the bathroom, you should get 2 towels for the same reason that you got 2 sets of sheets, or more if you want, but at least 2. And get a shower caddy, but make sure it's one of the hard plastic ones and not the like soft mesh ones. The soft ones never dry and then they get moldy. And back to your room itself. Don't make a bunk bed. You're gonna realize it sucks to climb up and down a ladder at like the worst possible time. But usually when you get there, your bed is lifted all the way to the top of one frame. You should leave it that high and then use the space under your bed to store random shit in plastic bins. Decorate your part of the room. Doing what you can to make yourself feel at home helps a lot. In the same vein, your roommate probably has their own decorations. That's rad. Even within one room, their space is their space and yours is yours. Don't mess with their shit without asking. Don't make their life harder. Your RA is not against you. They're also probably not a narc. They're there specifically to help you, and they're students too. Just be normal. Try to avoid eating meals in your room. Getting meals with other people is a really easy way to get up and out of your room, which is really important, especially in your first couple weeks. I know it's easy and less stressful to kind of be a hermit, but that's a slippery slope to just being that way for the rest of the year. Say it with me, kids. Self-isolation is bad. Also, don't do your homework in your room, but for a different reason. You should separate your study space and your living space. Then when you get home from doing work, your room can feel actually relaxing and stress-free. And anyway, we both know you're more likely to get things done when your bed isn't right there. Bring a lamp or some kind of light that isn't white light. There's a solid chance the overhead lights in your room are fluorescent, which can kind of make it feel like you're in a hospital. Get you some nice warm light and open your blinds. Definitely bring a fan. It honestly doesn't even really matter where you go to school. You should still bring one. I go to school way up north, but my fan is still on every night of the year because they crank the heat so high in the winter. And my last tip is less about your dorm and more about college at large, and if we want, we can do a longer video about tips for that. But listen, whatever you think it means to be a grown-up, just take a step back. Going to college or just living on your own does not magically make you a grown-up because there is in fact no such thing. You will always be growing up. That's life. In this situation, you're in an early phase of growing up and you're in a new place with a lot of shit going on. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. I need you to understand this. Regardless of what it looks like, nobody else really knows what they're doing either, including seniors, including professors. It's okay. Slow down. You got this.
Is drawing fabric weird and tedious? Well, fear not, for this is How to Draw Fabric for Dummies. Do your clothing and shirts feel flat and 2D? Do you have trouble knowing where to put the wrinkles? This is where I'll show you how. A little mistake I see very often is not thinking about scrunch points. I'm sure these have an actual name, but I'm going to call them that. If your character's elbow is in the middle, when they bend their elbow, the fabric should get bunched up in the area it bends. You might be thinking, I've already tried this. It still looks bad. Well, one reason it may not be working out so well is because you're forgetting that because that area is scrunched, other areas will stretch. So other parts of the sleeve that are being pulled on will have creases too, because they are stretching. Let's put some clothing on this lovely gentleman here. His sleeve is being pulled down slightly because he's extending his arm upwards. And gravity doesn't like that. The stretching of the sleeve will wrinkle the shirt because of the difference in tension in some areas. And the extra fabric that slid off of his arm is bunching at his shoulder. Next, I'm going to touch on what I'm doing with these semicircle-shaped folds. This tip always helps me a ton, and that's how fabric hangs. We've hung a big cloth by 2 points. The middle is not being held up, so gravity will pull it down. This will cause it to wrinkle the area below it, while the 2 points on the sides are held much straighter. Let's put some clothing on our lovely friend here. The areas fabric hangs off of will have these folds. They tend to look bowl-shaped because it adds depth, because the lines convey that the fabric is bending and sticking out. You can apply these techniques to almost anything. This also applies to skin-tight fabric, although not as drastically. Pants as well. One more thing I'd like to touch on is, unfortunately, what I call vacuum-sealed crotch syndrome. A lot of people don't know how to do the folds in the crotch area because it's difficult and filled with seams. When a character is moving or kicking, their pants are not glued to their crotch. Even if they are tight, they will stretch a little. It's normal and makes the clothing flow better. Thank you for watching, and always remember this is just how I do things. Make sure you adapt things you learn into your own way of doing them. And if you find my advice doesn't apply to your art style, no biggie. And remember, always use a reference. Have a wonderful day.
I used to have large stretched ears, and for the first time in 15 years, I can wear hoop earrings.
I love Dory and everything she's ever done, and at this point this video is actually not for her since she's had the ear reconstruction surgery already. But to everybody with gauged ears, if you like wearing hoops or danglies, I actually have some suggestions for you. First off, the hoops. You can keep wearing the hoops. Yeah. And if you have just like a traditional earring back, you can see, you can sort of see I've really flattened this guy out. That's because I've molded it to my gauge. Usually, and this is what I really like about doing this, I've had my ears gauged since I was like 14. Usually cheaper jewelry is cheap, and these little earring backs are usually pretty flexible, so you can mold them to a way to where they won't slip out of your gauge. I also have very sensitive ears, but the silicone, it doesn't make my ears hurt, I don't have any reactions to, so I can wear the silicone gauges all the time, and then I can buy the cute but cheap costume jewelry that before I had my ears gauged would have made me break out. Another option to make the regular dangly earrings more secure so you can wear them in your gauges is to get you these little like mini hoops and a couple pairs of jewelry pliers, which you can buy all of these things at like a local craft store, and you can switch out the regular earring back heads for the little hoops, and then you can pop that in your gauge, and that's not going anywhere. Your ears gauged definitely doesn't mean you have to say goodbye to danglies or hoops. Studs though, I don't have a solution for that. Much love to everybody on their earring journey.